How do we make it to where it's not such a cash business in the U.S. where I have to have a safe in the store and I make myself possible vulnerable to bad influencers that want to do things to take that money and allow for me to transact with people in a way in which they want to as well, not cash with credit cards and other things. And that safe banking law that was put together by the National Cannabis Industry Association, which is our partner in the U.S., has been languishing in Congress, and we want it to be passed. It's passed by the House, hasn't passed the Senate yet. And that's where we really need to get it to be moved. Hi, everybody. I'm Shawn Pierce, president of MCI North America. Welcome to the Ganjha Show.
Hi, Shawn. Happy to be here. He's the president of MCI, but those people actually host Lift & Co. So thank you for hosting us. So let's just jump into it. How events in Canada have changed in terms of cannabis since legalization?
Wow, what a massive change. There was a lot of unbridled enthusiasm early on, significant amounts of investment money getting poured in, Cannabis and other investment groups coming in. And I think that then that had difficulty living up to the promise, right? So events were following that same trend. Huge, massive booms, Lift & Co. being front and center for all of that. And then, the realization that to make up the money that they've been invested, you have to have a certain number of sales.
Yeah.
And that promise has now shaken out in the marketplace to make it more of a stable market versus just unbridled enthusiasm. The events went through that same sort of cycle with it. And now we're at an event that really focuses on trying to drive business for you. If you're a retail owner, if you're a grower, or you're a licensed product, LP, it tries to help you run your business in a way in which makes you profitable and makes you long-term growth versus, say, a short-term marketing plan, if you would. Lyft focuses on both brands as well as the retailers and bud tenders and tries to bring those communities together so they can be educated and then grow their business.
Yeah. So today is May 14th. It's also a bud tender pass for Lift & Co. This is the first time we've seen it here. Yeah. What was the idea behind that? I know there's like goodie bags for bud tenders. You're actually appreciating them.
Yeah, it's important to us to try and connect the brands to the marketplace. And that person that connects them is the bud tender. And the bud tenders are out working every day at the counters, the retail stores, the dispensaries and such. And we really felt that they're the people that can influence the brands the most and can really tell the story of why this product could be better for you and your particular needs, whether they are entertainment value or other things. And so that bud tender is an extremely important person in the marketplace, and we wanted to celebrate that person and give them a stage where they can shine a bit and show that they're moved beyond just someone who sells a product off the shelf, to someone who's helping you to pick the kind of product you need to work on the items that you are as an individual and human to help you along.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, thank you for making that distinction between bud tenders and like cashiers at other retail businesses, like probably convenience store, grocery, whatever. You're probably not helping people select what products. I'm also a bud tender right now, managing the store here, independent store, and it's so like I said, I'm from India where it's totally illegal to do any of this. You can actually buy bhang, which is like a mixture of cannabis leaves in my hometown. So that's the only retail experience I've had. But coming, I'm actually selling flowers, edibles, stuff like that, and I can actually tell my family, which is also frowned upon cannabis in general, but I can tell them I'm working in a bhang store, so it's kind of that's the way I
shade of gray.
Okay. That's the way I go around it. But yeah, it's a step towards like removing that stigma for people across the world. Like I don't know if you know, but people look up to US and Canada specifically because cannabis is so much more accessible. It's so much more freedom. Talking about the US, how have you seen events influence cannabis culture?
It's been a pretty amazing transition in the U.S. We had something like 8 new states come on to legalization in some way in the 2020 elections.
Yeah.
And so that's a big movement for the U.S. There's a fairly significant push state by state to first commit to medical for the entry and then moving into recreational in some way. That's the normal progression. I think that having the Congress and the presidency controlled in a certain way allows for opportunities for the cannabis industry. Right now, the things that are important in our world that we think of are things like safe banking laws.
Yeah.
How do we make it to where it's not such a cash business in the U.S. where I have to have a safe in the store and I make myself possible vulnerable to bad influencers that want to do things to take that money, and allow for me to transact with people in a way in which they want to as well, not cash with credit cards and other things. And that safe banking law that was put together by the National Cannabis Industry Association, which is our partner in the U.S., has been languishing in Congress, and we want it to be passed. It's passed by the House, hasn't passed the Senate yet, and that's where we really need to get it to be moved. And we want to push that influence because that will allow for the businesses to become more stabilized, to get access to credit markets. And you want to buy a store? Well, where do you get cash for this? You have to have it already in your bank. That's not going to work. You need to be able to have an investor, and that helps through safe banking laws and other regulatory changes. We obviously want full legalization for the entirety of the U.S., but step by step. Right? It's step by step. The U.S. is a different market than Canada. The states are very influential. It is the United States. It's not a single entity as it is in much other countries.
Yeah, exactly. Also, like you mentioned, because of the influence of the US, banks here in Canada are not accepting a lot of cannabis stores. There's certain stores, certain banks that only work with cannabis because they make it like a high risk business, which it might be right now because of how many stores they are opening, but not because of the fact because it's cannabis. I think so. Also, when you were talking about cannabis in general in the US, when you talk about safe banking laws, I think I heard somewhere people were putting ATMs inside the stores just so that they could get around the fact that you can't pay by through credit or debit. It's that crazy out there, right?
It really is. I mean, and you think about if you're a store owner and you take in that amount of cash in a day and you're storing it in a safe there, and so what am I doing with this cash? How am I going to get this cash into a place in which I can utilize it a lot easier? And you see a lot of crypto and cannabis kind of coming together as part of this industry. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to work or not, but that's an emerging concept right now. Is this an area in which we can put our cash into crypto and then use crypto to transact? Crypto's having some downtime right this second, but it's an idea, right? And everybody's trying new ideas. The reality is the federal government needs to help out.
What do you see? Senate already passed it, right?
Or the House passed.
it. So when do you see Senate passing it then?
Well, I thought that with the changes during the 2000 election and that both houses of Congress and both House and Senate are in Democrat hands in the presidency, I thought there might be a bigger push on this. We haven't seen that happen for whatever reasons. I'm not in the political world every day, but I clearly see it as a loss of opportunity for that to have happened this cycle. Right now, the Senate has difficult rules to make things. It intentionally wants things to be harder to get through because they need to be for all the people. And you have to have the mass majority, 60 versus 51, right? It's not 50-50. It really needs to be 60 senators to get something passed. And that's just not quite viable right now. You're not getting past that threshold.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, it's also a divisive issue in the US. But just the fact if it doesn't get passed, it's just lagging for a long time. Also, the fact that Joe Biden ran on cannabis campaign when obviously like a lot of people make false promises, like a set in stone right now. All the politicians do that, but there's so many people incarcerated and so many other implications of not legalizing cannabis.
I mean, the waterfall effect is amazing. The vice president, Kamala Harris, was very much in favor of trying to get this passed. Really said that during the campaigns. And Joe Biden certainly said it during the campaigns, and they've done really nothing with it. And so, I'm not here to be critical of them in this way. I just, the results are the results, right? Here we sit and nothing's happened. So I'm going to only say that we want more to happen.
Exactly.
And so, the people that are being affected by this, everyday people, these are not mega corporations. People that own these dispensaries here and in the U.S. are usually small business owners. And you're putting them at risk by not allowing them to have certain access to certain markets. The dynamics too for the growers. I mean, California there for a little while had a glut of product, if you would, and wasn't able to sell that product to Canada at one point, especially here in the East, was actually a little dry. Right, and so it's interstate commerce, international commerce. These are areas that are really being held up by not having. You can't move cannabis products or services between states in the U.S. Right, so if Canada has a lot and New Mexico has none, what do you do? Right? Nothing. You just hope that New Mexico can grow their own. That's it right now. So those things are all holding back the industry in general in the U.S. and unleashing a very, very large capital market as well.
have you seen, because of all of this, have you seen innovation in the industry? Because obviously there's less access to credit, less access to banking systems. Do you see more companies popping up who are happy to help cannabis, or have you seen that trend?
We haven't as much. I think that the companies, most companies that are going to innovate are tapping into equity markets in some way. Private equity, certainly not as much the true banking industry. So the private equity individuals are gathering money for their funds from individual items. It could be big families, it could be institutional money, and so forth and so on. So the way in which that money is gathered inures to what they can do with that money. And so if their fund won't be allowed to touch cannabis because of, it's not clearly safe for them banking wise, they don't want to put anything at risk. Investors are risk reward oriented, right? If I can't use this money safely in this marketplace, then I need to worry about that. So I think that's holding it back a bit. The innovations we see in California and some other places are really around distribution. That's really good, so that you have the robotic motorized things that are delivering to doors. That's a really cool deal where the dispensary will load it up at their place, plug it in, it'll just drive on the sidewalk and go to your door, buzz your phone, you go down, put your code in or put your phone near it, locker opens up, that's your product. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good innovation. Obviously, it would be super helpful for independent stores here in Canada, because especially deliveries, it costs a lot. It's impossible. It's not a viable option at current pricing or whatever you could say. It's not a good economic option for the dispensary. So something like that for independent store would be great. I don't think Health Canada would allow it, but
No, I don't think so.
yeah, that robot needs to have CanCell first, which is the certification here in Ontario. Right. So probably that's kind of impossible. Since you're from a global perspective, been heading events, you see the industry from I would say from top point of view, where you see more trends in general. What trends have you seen changing in North America in general?
Yes. So a couple things. Here in Canada, there are a number of events starting up this summer and fall that are really festivals.
Yeah.
They're really around the festival component. So concerts with a cannabis theme, that sort of feel. And we see that's a trend right now. There's a lot of festivalization going on. For us, for Lift & Co. and for our events that we're involved with, we really want to have the business-to-business essence at the core of what we do, with a fun environment around it. There's bands upstairs. We had the concert thing going on tonight across the street at the Steam Whistle. These are areas which we want to add the fun element to a business base. Versus a festival is a fun element with a little bit of sponsorship sold around it. Just a different market model. We wish them the best of luck and hope they can do well. We want our whole industry to grow. So that's a big trend difference you see right now in Canada. In the U.S., there's certainly a lot of regionalization going on. People are putting 1 day, 2 day events that are more conferences and heavy content around certain topics. Investment topics are big in New York and Boston, that sort of thing. And then you've got the more business to business stuff that we do and MJ Biz does. Those try to serve the market in a different way. For us, it's really about the California market and being the big player there in the Green Triangle, making sure that we're bringing that entire marketplace together for growers, for sellers, packagers, those sorts of people, along with the business content. And then we have the big investment Cannabis conference that goes along with that, right? So we're really focused on trying to help the community and to build the industry, and then that money goes into our partners' coffers, NCIA, and they do the advocacy on the Hill to try to get the safe banking laws passed. So the money that is spent with our events in the U.S. is going straight into advocacy and regulatory changes that are out there, versus some of our competitors. It's really just a for-profit entity.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good, because ultimately it helps the industry, and in turn it helps you guys. If it's federally legal, then you get more access to market and capital, like you said.
Absolutely.
Before we end this conversation, what does cannabis industry look like in the next 5 years for you?
That's a good question. It's as somebody told me, as in another interview and one of the other magazines said, if you don't like what's going on in the cannabis industry, wait till next week, right? It's changing so quickly, that predicting 5 years is a bit far. Even in our business world today, we don't try to predict 5 years, we try to do 3. So I'll give you a 3-year view. our feelings in the 3 years that we want to try to inure the brands into other countries as well and create more of a global network of these types of events. So going into Singapore, going into Germany, going into other areas that will make sense for the brand to try to work across the globe. We think this is a global marketplace, and at some point it will be. And so our job as innovators and things is to be on the forefront of that. So that's our future vision, is to do that. We're expanding next year. We'll have 2 events in Canada. The event in Vancouver. So it's Vancouver, January 12th through 14th. Be there. And we have the event that'll be here back in the June 1st through 4th back in Toronto. And then the event in August in the U.S. in San Francisco. So that's not a Lift & Co event. That's a Cannabis Business Summit. So we see that happening. We will expand again next year as the markets are back open. In the events industry, it's been a tough couple of years. COVID shut down events, 0 events, right? And so we're having to rebuild our own staffing, our own plans, and then everybody has compressed dates and times right now because they've been waiting for 2 years to have the event. So finding a good date and a good time has been tough. And we're having to use all of our influence and political power to make it happen, but that's our job, and if it was easy, anybody could do it.
It was great chatting with you, Shawn, and hope to see you at Vancouver the next time.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you there.